Welcome, everyone. It is Wednesday. We are live. Well, I am live. It is 7 o'clock, and welcome to the Nerd Informer podcast. What's going on? How's everyone? Just comments up here. All right. I want to preface tonight's show with a preview of next week's show. Next week, we are going to be dedicating the episode to Art Bell. Now, if you don't know who Art Bell is, you've probably never taken a late night drive anywhere ever, because that's where you find him, on the radio, on a show called Coast to Coast. He was the host from 1988 to 2003, and the stuff that he talked about was everything that kind of got me into what I do now, and it's awesome. It was a great show, and he would take phone calls from people from all over the place. And interesting stories such as time travel, UFOs, anything of high strangeness he'd get involved with. And I don't want to go too deep into it because I want to do it next week, but you should definitely look into that. He was amazing. Now, that brings us to today. Time travel. Time travel has always been interesting to me because it's such an interesting concept. And there's so many great stories about people who say they are time travelers or have time traveled. And it's intriguing to me. So tonight we're going to talk about time travel, where timelines tangle, paradoxes unravel, and reality, well, it's all relative. We're diving into the mind-bending world of time travel, from ancient myths to cutting-edge physics, wormholes, and DeLoreans. That's a nod to Back to the Future, my favorite movie franchises ever. We're exploring how humanity has imagined and maybe even cracked the code for moving through time. Joe Tursky, what's up, buddy? It's been a minute. We didn't do anything last week. Tyler's got some stuff going on, so I'm going to carry the load for a while. But can you really go back in time and stop yourself from eating gas station sushi and high-fiving dinosaurs? I wouldn't recommend that. You will die. Probably from the sushi, too. I don't need gas station sushi either, but it's funny if you watch like all the old time travel movies and stuff, all the time machines look like kitchen appliances and shit. Yeah, stupid fire calls. Yeah, those stupid fire calls. Stop lighting shit up. What, you got a bunch of pyros up there, bro? Come on. Knock it off. Oh, man. So according to documents released by the Pentagon, time travel and anti-gravity may be available to humans and could help us visit other worlds. The recent declassification of 1,500 files shed light on the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, which is ATIP, which was a secret Pentagon UFO program. Its publications were made possible after the Freedom of Information Act request from the Sun. One of the papers discussed how anti-gravity technology can be used to create airships and spacecraft, stating that the effects can be achieved by manipulating space-time and how to manipulate gravity. It was also discussed, and the report says it may be possible to create exotic phenomena such as faster than light travel and time machines. It's also added that wormholes in space time can be used for interstellar travel. A lot of people think wormholes are ways that possibly Bigfoot travel or UFOs, and they're used for all kinds of cool different things. The documents, which the Sun called the bombshell, were released by the U.S. Department of Defense Intelligence Agency. The reason I tell you all that was a long way of saying that tonight we're talking about time travel. So, car accidents, chicks had oh my God. Jesus, Joe. Oh, man. All right. Well, listen. Sometimes people's heads explode, I guess. I don't know. That's not the route I would. What do you do? I mean, I don't know. That sounds terrible. You just mop it up and move on. Time travel stories explore the concept of manipulating the flow of time, often raising questions about fate, free will, and the potential of consequences of altering the past or future. Push it to the side and going about your day. Think butterfly effect. It's kind of a concept of chaos theory. Suggests that small, seemingly nonsensical, insignificant events can have disproportionately large, unpredicted consequences. You don't want to go back in time and mess up your parents' meeting or your grandparents' meeting or something like that. Oh, Joe, that's gross. Oh my God, Jesus. Oh man. It's like stepping on an ant. If you could somehow that could change the future. An interesting example of that was the bombing of Nagasaki. It was said the original target was Kuroko, but weather conditions prevented the flying over that to drop the bomb. So they chose Nagasaki, which is just bad luck. I mean, if you're living in Nagasaki, but you think about like just the weather is all it takes to prevent you from getting nuked. I mean, that's pretty wild. Justin, what's up, bro? So that brings you to like Back to the Future. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. So if you ever watch Back to the Future, it's one of my favorite franchises because obviously, it's time travel, and they do it a DeLorean. And if you're going to do time travel, a DeLorean is probably the way to do it. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But I wonder, I asked myself, yeah, make this shit up. No, Joe, you can't. You got an interesting job, my friend. I don't know that I'd want to do that. So I asked myself when I was thinking about doing this episode was everybody's heard the thing about, would you go back in time and kill baby Hitler? And most people's answer is, well, yeah, you'll save all those people. Well, maybe, but maybe you'll introduce someone worse to the world. Maybe you'll make room for someone smarter and that could actually get the job done. That maybe would have won the war and we would have had all kinds of bigger problems at that point. So it's really hard to go back and make changes like that. Kill Uncle. Yeah, you got a family lineage, do you there, Joe? Oh my God. That's funny. People have been writing about time travel forever. Some of the greats, H.G. Wells, Mark Twain, Edward Bellamy, who wrote Looking Backwards. It was about a guy who falls asleep into like a deep sleep and wakes up 113 years later, exploring a utopian future and a little DNA. That's funny. And even Stephen King, which created the show 11/22/63. If you haven't seen this show and you're interested in like the JFK assassination and stuff, it's on Hulu. It's fucking amazing, man. The show is so good, and it has it has. They actually stop the assassination, and then he comes back and realizes that it was a terrible idea. So then he's got to go back and start all over again, and basically, they end up killing JFK, and everything goes back to normal. But even so, series like that have always interested me. But but from like Doctor Who, I used to watch Doctor Who when I was little, man. When I'd come home from school, the original Doctor Who would be on. The Terminator, the Back to the Future, all have given like their ideas of time travel and what could happen if you were able to do that. So I found some interesting predictions from people that were supposed to be time travelers, and the predictions were given in 1924, and they were about the year 2024. What would be happening in the year 2024? Some of them, well, you'll know what's what. No, I'll just read a couple of them. Beds will automatically. This one's great. Beds will automatically fling kids out of them in the morning to wake them up. No, I don't. They don't quite do that, but yeah, I don't know. Men's legs will wither away due to lack of exercise from the increased use of the automobile. No, I don't think so. It is interesting though, because a lot of people think that UFOs and aliens are a future us. Like the UFOs that come here are actually us coming back from, a million years in the future. And they have the big head because that's all they need is the intelligence. They don't need the Arnold Schwarzenegger body because why? They don't need it. They've outgrown it. Their brain has grown to the point to where they don't need it. All they need is that. And so their heads are so big and their eyes are so big. It's everything they do is, based on the size of their head. So it's an interesting. So yeah, you would think, maybe you get rid of the automobile comes in, and you're not walking, you're not riding horses really anymore. You're not doing anything. I mean, listen, a lot of guys skip leg day, but that's really juiced up. I don't know. There's some gyms that have some juiced up gay guys in them. All right. Young women will dye their skin and hair all colors of the rainbow. Well, they do that. Most of those, yeah. Well, we have a name for those people. Everyone will wear flying clothes. I don't quite understand that one. I guess maybe like, I don't know, a jacket that turns into a jetpack or something. I don't know. Concerts will be performed remotely and will not be necessary to travel great distances to see them. Yeah, they do that. The Sphere in Las Vegas, they do concerts and shit there, dude. I want to go just to see they did a UFC fight there. I think it's supposed to be like the most amazing experience that you could ever have if you're into like that kind of stuff. Horses will no longer exist. Well, we still have horses. We don't use them for what we used to use them for, but we still have horses. Diamond rings will be replaced with 100-pound bags of sugar as diamond supply will be exhausted. I don't know why you'd want sugar over diamonds, but I guess at some point maybe. I don't know. Automobiles will travel on speedways through the center of towns. We have that. Family albums will be videos instead of photos. We have that. Canada will have a population of 100 million. They're pretty far from that. Movies will bring about world peace. This is interesting. You got to really be in the movies, but damn, what's up there, Jimmy James? If you're in the movies and I don't know, movies can have some profound effect on people. Life expectancy will be 100 years. 75 years will be considered young. We're not quite there yet, but I think we will be one day. We're probably closer than. We're probably pretty close to that. Movies will be so realistic it will be hard to distinguish him from real life. We're there. I mean, Photoshop is good enough to make you not be able to distinguish from real life. Jazz music will be considered classical. Some of the jazz music will be considered classical. What was I listening to? I was listening to one of the radio stations, and they were talking about like playing oldies music and stuff, and they started playing music from like the 90s. I'm like, motherfucker, what the like what? No. Classic music, and it's like fucking Vanilla Ice. The human family will be at the point of starvation. We're not quite there yet. New York City will have a population of 30 million people with no transit problems. They're pretty far from that. Right now, I think there's about 8.5 million people, a little less. 50 Cent is now classic. You're probably right. 50 Cent is probably now classic. Yeah, our music's definitely classic now. So I found some interesting, quote unquote, real stories of time travel. And, you know, you can be the judge. Some of them you probably heard, some of them you probably haven't. This one was pretty interesting. In January 1995, a 21-year-old Mike Markham was arrested in Stanberry, Missouri, for stealing 6 300-pound transformers from the local power station. But what led Mark to commit this bizarre crime was even more astonishing. According to Markham, he had been building a time machine using a compact disc laser. He claimed the machine had successfully created a vortex, making a metal screw disappear and reappear a few feet away. His goal was to travel back in time and obtain winning lottery numbers. After his release from jail, he appeared on a popular radio show called Coast to Coast, like I talked about earlier. He shared his story and his plans to rebuild the time machine legally. With the help of listeners and experts who donated money and expertise, he was able to successfully rebuild his time machine. But during his interview, he jokingly mentioned that if he were to travel back in time, he would take only his cell phone home with him. Weeks later, Markham disappeared after reportedly activating his machine. His family and friends reported to have seen a bright light emanating from his porch on the night of his disappearance. Years later, a story was found about a steel tube found in California in 1930, resembling with a body holding a cell phone that resembled a 1990 cell phone. So they found a container that had a human body in it that was holding a weird object that now they know it resembles a 1990 cell phone. So that means he fucked up and went back in time and died. And they found him in 1930 holding a 1990 cell phone, which in 1930 you wouldn't know what a 1990 cell phone is, but they were at that point he was just holding some weird device. But I don't know. That's an interesting story. Axtel. It probably was, bro. You couldn't kill those motherfuckers. You know the phone lived, even if he didn't. You know the phone was fine. I'm going back in time with a fleshlight. You know, I wonder how confusing that would be for the people that find your body in a tube. Are you going to be actively using it, or are you just going to be holding it when they find your body? I think you should be actively using it. Go like that with a fleshlight. That would be hilarious. Oh man. What would you take to go back in time? If you could go back in time and take one thing with you, what would you take? I'd want to freak people out. A fleshlight would definitely do it. A Nextel would be confusing as shit too. So I don't know. I don't know what I would take, but James is taking a fleshlight, so that's already taken. So another one was this man photographed a UFO and somehow, by mistake, traveled 50 years into the future. In 2006, a man named Sergio Ponomarikino, ooh, that's a tough one, was wandering lost in Kiev, Ukraine. He was wearing a strange dress and had a vintage camera in his hand. Two cops asked him his identify himself, and he showed them legitimate documents from the Soviet Union era. These documents were 50 years old. The cops thought he was insane and arrested him, taking him to a psychiatric clinic. A female doctor investigated him, and he told her, quote, "My name is Sergio. We're going to call him Sergio. I was born in Kiev on June 16, 1932. The doctor replied, "You're not older than 30 years old." Sergio insisted he was 25. The doctor asked him how he appeared in 2006. He explained that he was trying to take a picture of a floating bell-like object and somehow got teleported to this place. The doctor was skeptical, but Sergio claimed that he had proof, which were the photos taken in his camera. With his camera, the problem was the camera was used outdated technology, so they really couldn't develop the film. But eventually, they found an expert to get the photos out of the film, out of the camera, revealing images of Kiev in the 1950s, including a picture of a UFO. The investigation confirmed that Sergio was a real person who lived in Kiev during the Soviet era and was declared missing. After the photos were examined, Sergio disappeared from the clinic. The security camera captured him entering his room, but he was never seen leaving. The windows and had bars, and the door was always watched by cameras. It was impossible to escape. Try to figure it out, James. That's gonna be big to travel with. I don't know. Walk around in the noble village with a fleshlight strap. You calling it King Arthur? Oh man. Oh God. Call me King Arthur. Oh man, you guys are too much. Fucking lunatics. The next one is pretty strange. Maybe time travel, maybe not. I don't know. You decide. It may just be a glitch in the Matrix. I don't know. In 1954, a man arrived at Tokyo's Haneda Airport, and he was a well-dressed businessman, speaking fluent French and Japanese, carrying a perfectly normal-looking passport, except for one impossible detail. His passport was issued by a country called Taured. The problem was Taured doesn't exist. It never has existed. The man seemed just as confused as the immigration officers. He insisted Taured was a real country, that it was a sovereign nation between France and Spain, and that he had traveled from there several times. He even pointed at a map, fully expecting to see his homeland, but when he looked closer, it wasn't there. His passport was authentic, with stamps from multiple countries, including Japan. So he had traveled to Japan at some time in the past. His bank statements, company records, and driver's license were issued from Taured. There was nothing fake about any of the documents that he had. Authorities detained him in a hotel room under guard while they investigated. The next morning, they went to question him again, and he was gone. And no one had seen him. No one's seen him leave. The guard swore no one had entered or left the room. His belongings had vanished as well. It was like he had never existed at all. Officially, the case remains unsolved. So, the one thing that kind of sticks out to me about this one is he had a stamp on his passport from Japan. So at some point, they got by him and they stamped his passport. Or it was a fake stamp, maybe. I don't know. So you would think they would know if it was authentic or not. I want to know why everybody disappears. how'd you get arrested and caught if you could just get out of the room? You know what I mean? Like, bring a Swiss Army knife, they would think you're a wizard. That's probably true. They would think you were some kind of wizard if you bring some meth. The problem with that, Joe, is bringing meth is what happens when you run out. You can't make anymore. I mean, unless you know how to make meth, I guess, and you have the proper stuff. I'm not a meth scientist, so I can't really do it. But I don't know. You'd piss off a lot of people, though. You'd get everybody hooked on meth, and then just go back to your normal time, and everybody's just freaking out. Oh man, that would work with all kinds of drugs, though. Bring back a bunch of heroin and just get everybody high. Everybody would be confused. I think heroin's been around for a long time, though. So meth is a new one, though. Meth would confuse people. Just get them really fucking high and just leave. Just be like, listen, guys, when you're done with this, come back and meet me here tomorrow, and then you're just gone. Like there's no, you just left them, and they're like standing on a corner scratching themselves. It's like that the Dave Chappelle skit. Hey, Joe Rogan, you got any more in the rock? He's just scratching himself. Oh man. That would really be fucked up, Joe. I'm gonna go get some meth and try it. First, I need a time machine. So, I guess first things first. But. So, all right, the next one. Back in 2003, the FBI would arrest a 44-year-old man named Andrew Coulson because he had just won the highest luck amount in history. So, but how so? In the span of 2 weeks, he turned $800 into $350 million, and there was no way that amount of money wouldn't raise eyebrows. Sprinkle some meth in the peace pipes. I wonder how far you'd have to go back. Just give it to all the Native Americans and sprinkle it all over their peace pipes. Put it in their ayahuasca. Ayahuasca would have such a different effect if you sprinkle some meth on it. Imagine a day you travel to like Peru to do like an ayahuasca retreat and they just sprinkle meth all over it. You come back addicted to meth. Panties for all the village. I would bring vibrating panties for all the women in the village and tell them I have the power to make them come. Then I've had all this. Oh, Jesus Christ. We need to start working on a time machine. I have some ideas that we need to get back to. Oh, God. That's hilarious. Okay. All right, let me get back to this. I got to start over because where I was at. Back in 2003, the FBI would arrest a 44-year-old man named Andrew Coulson because he had just won the highest luck amount in history. But how so? In the span of 2 weeks, he turned $800 into $350 million. There was no way that amount of money wouldn't raise eyebrows. Andrew would be arrested for insider trading, but instead of denying the allegations, he gave a shocking 4-hour confession how his 126 high-risk trades paid off. Andrew claimed that he knew exactly how those trades would work because he had come from 250 years in the future. His claims were obviously not believed, and for that, he would be jailed until he gave up the source. However, he did not give up any source, and as part of his plea bargain, he would tell the authorities the whereabouts of Osama bin Laden and the cure for AIDS. It is not clear if he actually gave the information to the authorities. However, the FBI was bent on proving him a liar, and they could not find any records of him before December of 2002, just 3 months before he would be arrested. And it's not that Jesus. And that's not enough. He also disappeared on his way to his court for his bail hearing and had never been seen since. God. Shave Jesus Christ. You guys are fucking animals. Let's move. I don't shave back, then it would be like Don King down there. Burn the hair off with a lighter. What's that smell? Oh man, you imagine that? The smell of oh god, I can't. I'm gonna throw up. Stop it, bastards. Bring a weed whacker. That might be too big to get in your time machine. Unless we build a DeLorean. If I was going back in time and going to build a time machine, I wouldn't build a DeLorean. I'd build like a Chevy van. Like you have all kinds of room to bring shit back. I don't know if it'll do 88 miles an hour or get struck by lightning or not, but we could definitely bring some shit back. Oh my god. Why's it gotta be infected? I can't with you guys. Oh man. See, this is why I can't do anything. Mystery machine. There you go, bro. The mystery machine. I'm taking Velma with me. And Daphne for that point, for that matter. So it is you bastard. No, James, it's not what I paint candy on a van and just get Jesus Christ. I gotta ignore you guys. Let me get back to what I was doing. Jesus. Everything devolves with you guys. Devolves into this nonsense. It's believed that we can for sure travel into the future. You just have to go You just have to go faster relative to everyone else. Then you have to come back. And then you come back less ages than when you left. The hard part is getting into the past. And I think it's really dangerous. So dangerous that Stephen Hawking thought that there must be some laws of physics that we haven't discovered yet that will can't even. Oh Jesus. Stephen Hawking thought that there's probably some law of physics that we haven't discovered yet that will prevent it completely from us going back in time. It's called a time traveler's paradox or protection conjecture. Because if you go back in time and prevent your parents from meeting, then you'll never been born. But then you won't be able to go back in time to prevent your parents from meeting. So what do you do? Jesus. But that was the whole point of Back to the Future, though. He went back and fucked up the whole timeline with his mom and dad meeting, so he had to go back and fix it. So, I mean, I guess if you go back and you fuck something up, you can go back and fix it, I guess. I don't know. But Stephen Hawking thinks that there is some law of physics that we don't understand yet that will prevent us from being able to go back into time and do things that we do. Now, they wondered whether or not, there would be a boundary that just says no. But the equation, there is a mathematical equation that says it is possible to go back in time. There is an equation that says that. But, I can't do the math, so I don't know what to tell you. if you're relying on me, I don't know what to tell you. But Stephen Hawking is a pretty smart dude, so I don't know. Now, there are several scientific reasons why some think time travel will never take place. One being that we don't know how to go faster than the speed of light yet. Unless you're an alien. Or you rely on some form of wormhole or some sort, something that we don't have access to yet. You'd have to be able to you'd have to be able to, because it's not about just going back in time. It's about going back in time and landing at the right spot. You know, it's all about, space time. You can't just go back in time and land in the same spot unless you know where that spot was when you're going back in time to. So there's a whole lot of math involved that I don't do. So you'd have to figure all that out. Now, a wormhole will do it. If you can figure out how to develop a wormhole, you'd be able to do it. And it would just take you from spot to spot. I don't know how you'd make the wormhole end up where you want it to end up, but imagine just going through a wormhole and like you just end up in the middle of the ocean and you just drown. You're like, fuck, I missed. There is that. There is the theory that you can only go back to when the first time machine was invented. But what if you didn't use that time machine? What if you found another way to go back in time that didn't need a time machine? What if you found a way to come up with a wormhole? We don't need a time machine. You need some kind of wormhole generator or some whatever, some way to access a wormhole. But if you didn't use a machine, then the machine would be irrelevant. But we don't have access to any of that shit yet. Maybe one day. But if that day does come, we're running another scientific hurdle, I'm sure. And, maybe space-time just isn't meant to be traversed. Or I'm wrong and all these stories I just told you are true. And, and all these people have actually traveled through time and we're the stupid ones. I don't know. I hope they're true. I just hope they're true because what if... Well, I don't know what a fish has to do with anything, James, but I kind of see your point. No, I don't. I don't see your point at all. Oh man, I don't know. There is the equation though. I would go back and for cash. What if you went back and changed your own timeline? That's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to go back and change my own timeline. I don't know what I would change. I'm sure there'd be something cool that we could change and go back. Free booty tax cash. What the fuck? But then if you go back and change your own timeline, how does it affect other people on that timeline? Like you can't just pluck yourself out of that timeline and put yourself in another timeline, right? This is why you're not allowed to have chickens, James. You got to clap. The chicken has to clap? What if the chicken had to clap and that's how you got it? What if that's how the clap started? James bought some chickens and James might be the original founder of the clap. And it all started because of a chicken. I think we figured it out. Oh man, that's too funny. I do like a good scrambled egg. Would it be their children or you guys' children? Is there a way to make that work? I do like a good scrambled egg. Ah, yes. Do you guys see that direwolf shit where they cloned they unextincted a direwolf? I have some feelings about this. Damn, James. I told you it was James. The best damn podcast. What's up, guys? What an island populated with dinosaurs and naked women. Yes. What if the dinosaurs ate all the naked women though? Then you're just stuck. Then you're just stuck with dinosaurs. And we talked about earlier high-fiving dinosaurs, or you'd probably die. That would be a good idea, though. So the dire wolf. Let me get back to this. I have issues. It'll be the plant eating dinosaurs. Well, there you go. They're all just a really big plant eater dinosaur. That'll work. So they did the. So there's a company called Colossus. I don't know, and they genetically engineered wolves, but they put back in dire wolf DNA. So essentially, they have a a dire wolf. Yeah, going caveless pose. Well, I mean, all right, I'm with you. Dinosaur. My first when I heard about the direwolf thing was their ultimate goal is to do a woolly mammoth. They want to bring back the woolly mammoth. Now, I don't, obviously the question is, have you seen Jurassic Park? But they say that it's essentially it's a direwolf. They said all the DNA is genetically engineered to where it's the real deal. Now I question it just because how close is 99% a direwolf, or is it something else? And what makes up that other 1% that I don't know what makes up that other 1% that makes them a direwolf. But they were working on the woolly mice. Look up woolly mice. James, look up Joe, look up woolly mice. They're the cutest little things ever, and they're mice, and they have long woolly mammoth hair. People have been trying to buy them. They're so cute. They've been trying to buy them from the company because they made woolly mice, and they lived the thing about the engineering that they're doing is that it actually works. They're not modifying and adding, crazy shit. They're really doing, they're really splicing the right genes and shit. They're doing the research and putting the right things where they're supposed to be and where they were, so that they can have a legit direwolf. And now they have 3 of them. They have 2 males and a female. And they let them run wild in 2,000 acres somewhere up north. They won't tell you where. But I think the company's based out of Dallas, but somewhere up north they have them. Not all of them have gone extinct, James. Not all of them have gone extinct. You might want them to have gone extinct. I've seen a couple of them that are. You're like, wait a minute, how is this possible? But I guess they took an Asian elephant or an African elephant, I don't know which one, and they found the one that's close enough to a woolly mammoth to where the stuff that they found from a woolly mammoth, bones and stuff like that they can get the DNA out of, and they can rewrite the missing code, because they're missing 4 or 5% of this code to be a woolly mammoth. So they have to somehow write that code, and it's the Asian elephant, I think. But they have to be able to write this code, so they think they can get it to 99.5 or 4% woolly mammoth and bring it back. And they're doing it. They're trying with all kinds of different animals. And they were talking about doing certain versions of the saber-toothed tiger. I guess there's a bunch of different versions of versions of a saber-toothed tiger, but they were talking about bringing back some of those. One of the other things that I think about is it's just they reintroduced all these, not the dire wolves, but there's a company that reintroduced a bunch of wolves to Colorado, which now they're eating all the elk and the livestock. they do. You're right. We do need John's opinion on that. But they took these wolves and they released them. I talked about this a couple weeks ago. They released these wolves in Colorado where they haven't had wolves in generations. So the elk are just getting fucked up because the elk that are there, they haven't been able to. They haven't had to adapt. They haven't had to have that natural enemy, and now they're they took these wolves from like British Columbia, I think they took them out of, but they were wolves that were destroying livestock up there. So they caged them up, brought them down to Colorado, and released them. So what do you think they're doing? They're eating all the fucking livestock, you morons. What do you think was going to happen? You just took them out from where they were eating all the livestock and put them around a bunch of livestock. And now it was like, wait a minute. So I guess the government is now stepping in, and I guess they're reimbursing them for the livestock that they kill or whatever. But, you know, these livestock aren't used to dealing. You know, there's been multiple generations where they haven't had to deal with them. So they have grown to not fear them. They don't have to. They don't have that natural fear where if they were there forever, they would have that natural fear. So the woolly mammoth, for example, you're going to put them back, up by Siberia and places like that. But they haven't. The whole ecosystem's different now. Like the things that they would eat are, who knows if they're still, if it's still the same. The Panthers trying to mate. Yeah, bro. These guys, it's these hippies, bro. It's these fucking hippies. Like, I get the idea. These are kind of two separate stories, but I get the idea of wanting to like bring back extinct animals or whatever. And I'm sure they have they would serve a purpose in doing that in some way. You'd be able ultimately be able to modify human genes and stuff like that. And I think this company isn't doing that, but they're open sourcing all of their technology that they're using for gene splicing and stuff. So you and I can go start a company and start splicing fucking human genes, and no one's going to say nothing. So, I don't know. It's a good idea. It's probably cool to put them in like, a zoo and be like, hey, this is what they were and this is what they did. And, it'd be cool to study them and get an idea of how they really acted and how they, they're like the dire wolves they're watching, and they're starting to let them eat, hunt. They're starting to let them hunt. So they get their sense of hunting back. But they've already made dens. They've watched them make dens and stuff like that. So they're coming around. They're getting there. But, that could be just a regular wolf in them. Like, they're mostly gray wolf. And then that whatever piece of that. But they're huge now. They're monsters by now. They're already, I think you said they're 6 or 8 months old, but they're like 80 pounds and 4 feet long. And, they're monsters already. And dire wolves were fucking huge, man. That's gonna take a magic wand, Joe. Not ain't modifying that motherfucker. You're gonna need a Harry Potter wand for that if you want that shit to happen. 12. Hey, if you have a 12-inch and you go back into time and they find your dead body, it'll just be a big 12-inch dong, and it'll be like, damn, man, somebody. The future is bright. Everyone in the future has a 12-inch dong. That's true, James. That's fucked up that you're not allowed to do stem cells and stuff. They found so many good things with stem cells that people have fucking done. People go to Mexico. Like Joe Rogan talks about it a lot. He goes to Mexico and gets stem cell, therapy. And there's he goes and gets like ivermectin and stuff like all these drugs that the FDA won't approve here. They all go to Mexico and they have these fucking amazing results that probably most people would have. I'm sure that not everybody would be. It's just like anything. People are allergic to shit, but you want 12 inches? All right, I'm gonna do it 4 times. And get 12 inches the hard way. Yes. Oh man. The dire wolves they're pretty big, man, and their skulls are much thicker and yeah, like you said, like they're much denser. And they had they found a dire wolf skull on Skinwalker Ranch, and they had it checked out or whatever, and they said that it was definitely from a dire wolf, but it was really close to the surface, so they want. I think they were trying to carbon date it. I never heard anything else about it, but because they think it was pretty recently. Yeah, they're going to be monsters. I mean, those wolves are going to be huge. Or that's right. We got 7. Well, looks like you're going to go a couple extra times there, Joe. You guys are lunatics. It's funny. I wanted to bring back the woolly mammoth. I just want to see one. Then it just goes on a rampage and kills a bunch of people, and then they got to shoot it or something. Like they don't know what these animals are like. Like a lot of these things, they don't even know what they truly look like. You know, have you ever seen the video or the picture of the rabbit skeleton without the without the body, and it looks fucking like the craziest thing ever? But it's just a rabbit that's stretched out, and then they put the body on it. You're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like that, they don't even know. Like they think that it's possible that like T-Rexes and stuff had feathers and shit. Like they just don't know. Like all the pictures and renderings that you see of dinosaurs and stuff like that, most of them are just like best guesses. Yeah, the dire was about 175 pounds. It's gonna be. Well, you know he's not gonna stop doing that, James. He has a lot of time in between fire calls, so he has to he has to entertain himself somehow. Yes. That's why he's late to all these fucking car accidents and stuff. He was busy. He was busy. Oh god, I can't. You guys are nuts. I gotta go. You guys are playing with it. Oh, man. Anyway, we should probably try to figure something out and go time traveling. The thing died out for a reason. They should be left alone. Yeah, no, I agree. There's a big part of me that agrees with that statement. They died out for a reason, whether it was, you know, food shortages or a change in food or mass extinction events, stuff like that. And the problem is that, you know, they won't tell you where the ranch is, where they're keeping these dire wolves, because you'll have some redneck out there shooting at them. I'm gonna get me dire wolf for dinner, because rednecks shouldn't be allowed to have guns and be left alone. I can say that because I'm from Florida, and trust me, I know some motherfuckers that shouldn't be left alone with guns. James, be definitely hunting dire wolf. Can you imagine? They just one of the neighbors to the ranch doesn't even really know there's dire wolves there, and they just see some giant wolf and they just shoot it, and it's just all that. Everything just goes to hell. They were talking about doing a whale. I guess they got like a complete genome sequence of one of like the largest whales that ever existed, and they could actually bring it back, but they're afraid to do it because that's what they were talking about, that bringing back the Tasmanian devil, are like populating them more. So like I guess Australia has like a big problem with them, or had a big problem with them, and they're running out of like resources and they're dying out. So they want to, listen, there's nothing in Australia but fucking, especially like Western Australia. It's just like cactuses and snakes and weird kangaroos. It's funny you said that. Oh yeah, I mean, you imagine a 100-pound pit and a fucking dire wolf going at it. I mean, the dire wolf would probably kill it, but I don't know. I've seen some crazy fucking pit bulls that just lose their shit and just go at it. Oh, man. Oh, boys. All right. It's 8 o'clock. I gotta get out of here. I got things to do. You guys are too much. We're gonna do this again next week. Check out next week's show. I can't wait to do it. I wanted to do it this week, but I had to talk about time travel. We're gonna talk about Art Bell. Art Bell, the host of Coast to Coast from 1988 to 2003. We're going to talk about his career and some of the stories that they talked about. I cannot wait. He's one of my heroes. He's the one that like got me in all, kind of started on all this shit. Just a great dude, and I wish that he was still alive that I could talk to him, because that would be the greatest interview of all time. Just because you imagine the stories that fucking guy has. Imagine the things that didn't make the radio. So, no one loses the head. I'm gonna try not to lose my head. Thanks, Christine. Thanks for stopping by. James, Joe, John Knight, I know you're out there listening. The Best Damn Podcast, boys. Thanks for stopping by. We will do this again next week and waste a bunch of your time. And until then, later.